Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and you have discovered a relic. Congratulations. This is probably the biggest accomplishment of your day. Yes, you have found a Matty Nintendo video. Normally, these videos just go out to die, but you have found it. You have decided to click on it and watch it. And be warned, because my Nintendo opinions are not in line with most of the internet. I'm very critical of Nintendo, extremely. I love their software, but their hardware, their online infrastructure, it drives me up a wall. I feel insane, but no one else ever talks about it. So I don't even bother talking about it because I feel like I'm going to be yelling at a wall. Today we get into one of the bigger Nintendo announcements, and since there's really no news happening in my realm of Xbox and Bethesda and BioWare and anything RPGs, I thought, hey, let's throw something at the wall, see if it sticks. We're going to diversify today. In all seriousness, for watching this, thank you, because my Nintendo videos, they go out to die. Let's just say that. So if you're here, thank you. Today we talk about the new announcement of the Switch OLED, the SWOLED, or I don't know what they're calling it nowadays. But anyway, this is a brand new revision to a console that's been out since 2017. And a lot of the internet is pretty disappointed. Depends what standpoint you're looking from. If you don't own a Switch, this is actually pretty cool. But a lot of the internet was expecting the Switch Pro, if you will. The new Nintendo Switch with 4K output, NVIDIA DLSS upscaling, everything to make this compete with next generation technology. And it's the same for the most part. According to a report with The Verge, Nintendo has confirmed that there are no major internal changes to the CPU or memory. Nintendo Switch OLED model does not have a new CPU or more RAM from previous Nintendo Switch models. This is hot on the heels of reports across the industry, most notably one from Bloomberg saying the Switch maker's response will be to upgrade its flagship console with a 7-inch Samsung display OLED display, which is accurate and faster NVIDIA graphics silicon, making it capable of 4K output when docked to a TV. One of the people who's been pretty strict with Switch Pro in 2022 was Jeff Grubb, and he followed that up today saying that he still has only personally heard 2022 for Switch Pro, and if that still happens, I'll continue to speculate that it will have 4K output with significantly more efficient chip with DLSS. So this is what we heard for weeks, really leading into E3, versus what we have now is a far cry away from what people expected. A lot of folks were expecting a new Nintendo 3DS-like revision where there were certain games that would only work on that system. And that excited people because Nintendo was finally taking a technological step forward. But this revision, I feel they dropped the ball in a number of ways. And while some of it isn't on Nintendo because insiders hyped up something that was completely separate from the announcement, or they conflated two different reports and put them in the same bin, where they treated this 4K output Switch seemingly coming in 2022 with the OLED screen, which is coming this year, and I imagine the 4K one next year, if that actually happens, we'll have the OLED screen. But what I found really kind of hilarious is some of the things that they marketed for this console that they are now selling for $350 on October 8th. Funny enough, Xbox came out the same day, not a coincidence, talking about their all-in-one access package where you can pay monthly to get a system, no interest rate added. It's an incredible offer, and especially when the Xbox Series S is cheaper than this and the specs in there are better, it's a pretty good time for Xbox to strike and remind people of how easy it is to buy into their generation, no matter which way you go about it. This new Switch revision comes with a 7-inch OLED screen. It comes with a wide adjustable kickstand, enhanced audio, and a wired LAN port. You know what had a wired LAN port for the first time ever? I mean, granted, you could say like the Dreamcast had the attachable thing, but the original Xbox came with a built-in LAN port. And today, in 2021, multiple decades later, you are sitting here watching an actual company market to you that there's a wired LAN port. Yeah, I understand the demand. I play Smash Online. I've been playing a ton of Mario Golf with my buddies. Betting Mario Golf, by the way, super underrated. If you don't bet with your friends when you play Mario Golf, I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, been playing a lot of that. I understand the online woes of the Switch, let alone that they want you to use an app for like party chat. Okay, I know it's absolutely ridiculous, but I cannot believe that they're marketing this thing at times. I really can't. Let's talk about the good though. The OLED screen. Hey, as a PS Vita user, I love the letters OLED. Those screens look good. Do not sell that short, okay? 7-inch OLED screen It is going to look beautiful. Those colors are going to pop more. Some games that are really rich with that color, like a Breath of the Wild, are going to look incredible in handheld. But this only speaks to a particular crowd, sadly. That is the people who use handheld. I tend to use my Switch in handheld, but lately I've been docking it. Then I'll fire up a game, I mentioned Mario Golf, where the image gets really stretched and you start to see just how bad Switch games are starting to look. And that was largely exaggerated by, I think, the launch of next-gen consoles, where we're getting some really good stuff, a lot of 60 FPS, a lot of 4K output. Things are looking more and more sharp. Meanwhile, Nintendo's literally on their own planet. That's one of my big complaints with them. They function like they are on their own planet, Earth 2, doing their own thing, where technology is behind another 15 years. I mean, the OLED screen is cool. I like that. I use handheld. I like that big time. But beyond that, like the kickstand, man, really? Look, I don't speak for everybody. I'm just speaking from my own experience. I've used this thing twice, both times just to show someone, hey, this is a thing. And then my Switch tipped over. Granted, this one's wider, so it's not going to tip over. That's great. But I never found this to be an ideal function for the Switch, right? It's either in handheld, you're using it for yourself, or you take it to someone else's house and you dock it and then play on that TV, because that's more ideal than sitting out at a lunch table at a restaurant with your Switch set up and playing with these tiny little Joy-Cons. That's the other thing, is the Joy-Cons, with all these revisions, you have to wonder if the drift will disappear. This is something that still plagues my Joy-Cons on the occasion. I actually lent my Switch to my brother and his girlfriend the other day. My brother comes upstairs. He's not really a gamer at all. He's like, hey, one of the controllers is just freaking out. And it was going all over the menu, and it was because of the Switch drift, the Joy-Con drift. So I do worry a little bit about that. But ultimately, I almost, for a rare moment, can't help but feel bad for Nintendo. They're doing what they've always done, which is, like, they had 6 revisions of the 3DS, okay? So none of this is surprising to me at all. My expectations were woefully low, and they still managed to undercut those, by the way. But I almost feel bad for them, because I do feel like they got worked over by insider reports and fan hype. I do have to say that, you know, a lot of folks aren't addressing the elephant in the room, which is insiders really went in on, yep, Switch Pro, it's coming this year, get ready, 4K, Nintendo's hitting hard, they're battling next-gen consoles. And I'm like, no wonder they weren't worried about chip shortages, really. They were just saying that, oh, we're going to be supply constrained like the rest, but they weren't worried about chip shortages because they really weren't building anything new. So the good news here is, if you don't have a Switch, there's a lot of ways to get one, and I doubt you'll be battling scalpers hardcore for this. Famous last words, right? But I can't imagine you will be battling scalpers for this, because it offers the OLED screen, but that's really the only notable difference. Like I said, yeah, there's a LAN port. You can do that, sure. There's a wide adjustable kickstand. There's enhanced audio, which is great and all. But really, the standout feature is the OLED screen, and maybe that will end up being grabbed because it'll be so attractive to people when it's gone that they'll need it and they'll go out and buy it. But for me, man, I mean, just Nintendo is at times so wholly uninteresting on a hardware front, it's laughable. And I just like to pay attention to their games, because, like, their Direct at E3, I thought was great, especially for a weeb like myself. I was fired up seeing, like, Danganronpa Decadence take the front stage. They had a new Cruisin' game. I remember playing Cruisin' on the N64, and they had a new one of those. I mean, they had a lot of weeby surprises. I like Nintendo on that. Their Directs are untouchable. No one's really replicated that. They just have a good energy and excitement in them. And so their software front, strong, man. We're getting a new Mario and Rabbids. No complaints from me at all. When you start to take a look at these models and these revisions, while it's not surprising, it's still the ball being dropped. It's still disappointing for Switch users who are looking to make an upgrade. And this is really because I just think Nintendo understands, as they add more consoles to the family, it spreads their overall base. Like, one of my buddies is looking to get a Switch, but he doesn't want to buy it. He's just cheap like that. He's like, I'm not going to buy it. For me, I look at the OLED and go, well, if I have the money and I do pick this up, could I just hand my friend my Switch? Now, Nintendo's got another console in the market that someone could buy software for. I understand why they're doing it. I don't want people to think I don't, because I know this is a critical video, so some people come up with their guard up and say, oh man, here we go. But I just think, yeah, with the Nintendo Switch, and you look at games like Pokemon Legends Arceus, how can you not feel worried? And that's right now. Maybe in a couple of months we hear about this new Switch Pro, because if it's coming out in 2022, it could launch in sync with that. Although just a 3-month gap between the OLED model and then this new Switch Pro model, that'd be a little strange to sync up with the Arceus launch. But I can't help but look at a game like that, or Breath of the Wild 2, where more than likely it will synchronize with that, just like the first Breath of the Wild did, and get a little worried. And there's games that I have been waiting on to play. Like, I own Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. That game's fun. It's really fun, but it runs like trash. I'm sorry, but it really does. And I just refuse to play it because it's dropping below 30 FPS constantly. And I'm like, all right, I'll wait for the Switch Pro. So there are games that are already desperately needing it on Switch, and they're going to have to wait even longer now. So I just find that aspect frustrating. Once again, I'm coming from merely the software standpoint on how these games truly benefit from it and how they're already games that feel outdated. And one of the biggest things for the Switch was its third-party support, right? We saw the Wii U where third-party support was just entirely dropped. And it was really, really sad for the console because it just obviously went out and died, as many of us know. Whereas the Nintendo Switch really picked up the port side of things, and they engaged their third-party again, and some games got double dipped on because of that portability factor. So I understand why they're focusing on portability, but when they continue to let their technology lag behind, it puts more pressure on those exclusives to carry the water for the console. And obviously not all of them are going to hit home runs, and some of them are going to look like Mario Golf, which is amazing mechanically. I love that game, but on a visual standpoint, it's pretty shocking how bad it can look when docked. So these are just some of my thoughts on Nintendo's new Switch model, how I think they dropped the ball. I think it's overall pretty disappointing, even with low expectations, and I don't know how this video will be met or seen. Who knows? But thank you for watching nonetheless. I appreciate you, and we'll talk very soon. So fire away with your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of the new Switch model? Let me know. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Big thank you to everyone who's supporting all the variety we do here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.